Welcome back, everybody. It is May 24th, 2024. It's kind of an overcast day. It's a little bit muggy. At least it's not, it's not raining. It's not sunny either. Although the older I get, the more I like my grandmother I become. And even though it's overcast, the light sensitivity, it bothers my eyes. So, like, my grandmother was the same way. So that's what's going on today. We've got an interesting set of circumstances going on today. We have a lot of entertainers' birthdays today. We have some political intrigue. We have some some overall good stuff. So let's get right into it, shall we? So on this day in 1645, now I have to laugh because the Britannica site claims him to be an English pirate, yet he was born in Scotland, so I think it probably should say that he is a Scottish pirate. But Captain Kidd was born on this day in 1645. I didn't realize that, or maybe I did, I don't know. I know there's a Captain Kidd that is mentioned in Bon Jovi's song Let It Rock, and I didn't think anything of it. I do vaguely remember hearing about a Captain Kidd, and might have been the Botany Bay. I can't remember, but his birthday is today. In 1883, Douglas Fairbanks, he's an American actor, he would be born today. In 1912, John Payne is another American actor that would be born today. 1928, actress and musician Rosemary Clooney was born today, and I do believe that is George Clooney's mother. I'm not for certain, or possibly grandmother. I am not sure. In 1933, sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. 1933, Joan Collins, she was an English actress. She was born on this day. In 1971, George Osborne, which he was a British politician, he was born on this day. And that is the birthdays for today. Sorry, I gotta slow down here because there's an ambulance going by. Hopefully it's nothing too terribly bad. But on this day in 1430, Joan of Arc is captured. She's captured by the Burgundians. It was in France. I can't pronounce it, and so I'm not even going to try. In 1618, so there's this little issue. It's called the Defense Station of Prague. I think I pronounced it right. Basically what it did is that it was the onset of the 30 Years' War. It was over religious persecution. So basically what ended up happening was that in a couple towns there, the citizens had built their own, because I actually had to look this up, I didn't know what it was. They built their own Protestant churches, and kind of sounds like the Catholic Church came in and shut them down. Thus, they were promised religious freedom, and they weren't granted their religious freedom by having their churches being shut down and taken from them. So it sparked a huge fight, and it ended up leading to the 30 Years' War in what is present-day Czech Republic. That'd be Prague. So that happened in 1618. In 1706, gotta read my chicken scratch again. Oh yeah, in 1706, the Duke of Marlborough gains a victory over the French. It is the Battle of Ramillies, and it takes place during the War of Spanish Succession. So he scores a major victory on this day, and that was pretty significant. It was a pretty significant battle over the French, and but there's a running joke about that. Just, when are the French ever? Never mind. It's a slam on the French. I'm sorry. I'll behave. So remember when we were talking about yesterday how the fledgling Germany had made allied treaties with like the Austro-Hungarian Empire and Italy. Well, and that's not to be confused with the treaty that Mussolini signed with. I'm not talking about the Pact of Steel between Mussolini and Hitler. I'm talking before that, when Germany, it was in 1882, I believe it was. We talked about this the other day, that they had signed a treaty pact with, I believe it was the Austro-Hungarian Empire in Italy. Well, that all came to an end in 1915 when Italy actually declared war on the Austro-Hungarian Empire, who was sided with Germany, thus entering the war on the side of the Allies, and they fought the First World War on behalf of the Allied nations. That would be, Yugoslavia, it'd be Russia, it'd be England, it'd be France, it'd be the United States. So that happened on this day in 1915. In 1934, in a place called Gippsland, Louisiana. It is on this day in 1934 that the criminals Bonnie and Clyde would be killed. They'd be taken down by law enforcement. It wasn't like some big, they went out in a blaze of glory. No, they were straight up murdered. I'll just say it right now. They were straight up ambushed and murdered, and basically when law enforcement opened fire on their car, they didn't stop until they were out of ammunition. Bonnie and Clyde were probably long dead before they ever ran out of ammunition. A really good movie that kind of depicts that whole situation it's a Netflix movie. It's called The Highwaymen. It stars Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson. They played Frank Hamer. Costner played Hamer, and I forget Harrelson's character's name. But these guys were former Texas Rangers, and because Bonnie and Clyde, little side trip here, Bonnie and Clyde were committing, random acts of violence all throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth area. They'd sometimes run to Oklahoma, sometimes they'd run to he had family in Louisiana, so that's, and back then there was no such thing as, you couldn't, once the guy was out of the state, once they ran out of the state of Texas, nobody could go after them. It then fell on the FBI, and yet I always thought it was the FBI that took down Bonnie and Clyde, but it wasn't. It was a couple of former Texas Rangers who were specifically hired by Ma Ferguson through someone else, but Ma Ferguson was the governor of Texas at the time, and she had commissioned, she commissioned Hamer and his associate to be bounty hunters and to go take out Bonnie and Clyde. Their collective attitude was that they were dogs that needed to be put down like rabid dogs, and so there was no interest in bringing them into justice. They were targeting police officers and killing them in the streets. They did a prison break. They got some of their friends out. I think they robbed some banks too. I'm not really entirely sure about that. I mean, they had to fund themselves somehow. But they were just on a crime spree, and they were finally taken out. Now, they were taken out near his hometown, if I remember right, in Louisiana. And how they were able to do that is that they got in contact with the local sheriff, and they had to quickly determine whether or not he was a corrupt sheriff or not. And when they found that he was a above board sheriff, they brought him on board. So basically what it was is that, yes, it was Frank Hamer's operation, but they ran under the jurisdiction of that Louisiana sheriff, and Hamer had the firepower, and they had someone from Dallas that was with them that could readily identify Bonnie. He knew Bonnie when they were kids, so he was like, yep, that's them. And that was them. And then as soon as they came into view, they opened fire, and they riddled that car so full of bullets. It's said that probably one of the first rounds fired hit Bonnie and killed her instantly because it was a headshot. But their whole bodies were just riddled with bullets. It was just, it was a straight up murder. It wasn't, they can't justify that as, it was self-defense or whatever. That was, there was no, I can't see, I mean, that would never have, that wouldn't fly by today's standards, not by a long shot. It's like they would have had to fire on those cops, and then the cops would fire back, and then it's like, hey, it's justifiable homicide. This wasn't a justifiable homicide. This was a straight up murder. But Clyde Barrows had made it well known that he would never be taken alive, because he would go down fighting, and so the best way to get him was to ambush him. So that happened in 1934. Heck. Lost my place. 1980. If you're a horror fan, the movie The Shining is released. I remember this movie because my stepdad, no, I didn't go see it. He waited till it came on cable TV, and then he'd watch. Dad loved horror. He loved the horror genre. So, I remember him watching The Shining. I remember him watching Friday the 13th, or, Jaws. I mean, he loved horror movies. I'm like, no thanks. But it is on this day in 1980 that The Shining was released. That movie starred Jack Nicholson and Shelley Duvall. And the thing is, that movie was actually filmed part and parcel here in in Oregon. There is a set down in Astoria that is a replication, or it's a replica of the door where Jack Nicholson's chopping through the door, and then he sticks his head through the hole, and he says his iconic line, "Here's Johnny." That they have a kind of a replica set of that down in Astoria. I've been to, and we've done that, and kind of quirky and funny. But the lodge is actually, I believe that it was Timberline Lodge up at Mount Hood. That's where they filmed, a lot of the lodge scenes. 2015? Yes, 2015. There was a Nobel Prize winner for economics. His name was John Nash. He would pass away on this day at the age of 86. It is said that he suffered from paranoid schizophrenia. I don't know if that's what he actually died of, but he won a Nobel Peace Prize, and I didn't write it down, but I think it was in 1996. He won a Nobel Prize, not a Peace Prize, but it was the Nobel Prize for economics. He had established an economic model that they found interesting, and as a result, he won the prestigious award of the Nobel Prize for it. But we're going back to 1951 here. Here's the featured event of this day in history. Is on this day in 1951, China annexes Tibet. If you've followed international politics for quite some time, I know that, like, when I was growing up, there was a big, huge free Tibet movement. I never really quite understood what that was. Tibet is its own country in the Himalayas. It's kind of tucked between China and the stands, like Afghanistan, Pakistan. It's all in, kind of in that region, but it's high up in the Himalayas. I think there's another country around there called Bhutan, I think, unless that's somewhere else. At any rate, it's it's a small, peaceful country, mostly made up of, like, you hear about the Tibetan monks, right? There are these very peaceful people that basically they just they go up to their monasteries and they reflect, they pray, they meditate, they don't harm fellow human beings. But China had taken it upon itself in 1951 to say, okay, you're ours now. We have annexed you. And because Tibet is a peaceful nation and they don't have a standing army, they don't have anything really of any kind of significant defense, it was real easy for China to just roll on in and say, you're annexed. So that's what happened in 1951. There has been a lot of public outcry since 1951. Public outcry toward the Chinese to free Tibet, and it falls on deaf ears because, for whatever reason, I don't know if there's any resources there that is, that's vital to them or what. I don't know why they took over Tibet. I don't know if it's just merely a means of expansionism or if it's, imperialism or, I don't know. But at any rate, they occupied Tibet, they annexed Tibet, and to this day they still have, occupation and authority over the small country of Tibet in the Himalayas. So that's it for this day in history. Join me again tomorrow for May 24th, and we'll do it all over again. So have a good day, have a blessed day, take care, be safe, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.